Okay, so shalom and welcome back, all of you, or thank you for those who joining us for the first time for the teaching of Senshap Serkong Rinpoche. Just a reminder about how to choose the interpreter you would like to listen to. So you go to the menu bar at the bottom of the page and then click interpretation. Then choose the language you wish to listen to. For Tibetan and English, please stay with the default channel, which is indicated by off. Otherwise, click Italian. Please note that you will be able to watch Rinpoche teaching in Tibetan on both channels. While on the Italian interpretation channel, there is a delay of 10 seconds after the interpretation has finished, interpreter has finished, and before you hear Rinpoche again. If for some reason you don't hear the interpreter clearly and the default channel sounds too loud, you may click interpretation and then click mute original audio. When your interpreter has finished, please click unmute original audio so you would be able to hear Rinpoche. Please keep your camera on. Another reminder is about the question and answer session. If you have a question regarding Rinpoche's teaching today, please send it via email to your respective language coordinator till this evening. Okay, so do it today. You may find the coordinator's email address in the event page at the website of Dharma Friends of Israel and Institute Olam Tsongkhapa, respectively. Your question will be translated into English and sent to Rinpoche. Rinpoche will, the selected question will be answered by Rinpoche during a question and answer session on the following Saturday.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much, Rinpoche.
Okay. Sanje Jodon Soji Shanam Chanju Pado Dani Nyoja Daje Jinsu Give Sonam Jendona Pinji Sanjen Drobur Show Sanje Jodon Soji Chunam Da Chanju Pado Dani Japsu Daye Jinsu Give Son Drola Pinji Sanje Drobur Show Sanje Jodon Soji Chunam Da Chanju Pado Dani Japsu Daye Jinsu Give Son Drola Pinji Sanje Drobur Show Doni Ninju Sundu Jube Nam Chiche Sense Kanjin Dendru Chana Bemo Dinzin Jazul So when this was in the noon, Joram Sura, one of the make us on turbo review, Sevi Juve, since the senior Namla charge. Okay. So I hope you had a good break. Onto the Majita, go to Shawi. 다 라나 몇 양도 좀 전주도 네 간사는 전주도 심 깨네 군주도 전연도 몇 전주기 심 공부를 배불 차고 있듯 다디 단지 쉬심들이 다디 콩들이야 공부를 두기 전진체위기 지대 쉬차프레 다른 예들미디 셰라스 단예단도 좀전이 쉬고 봐. 나 좀전이 쉬주 나도 시제 다디기 잡아들라 니엘이야 로브로치 공부 디치 코너에 오요래 디급도 다 제상가 전주기 심께네 세지 전 대내 군주도 대한다면 전주기 심 공부를 배고 그래 이세도 전주기 심 마게 개베셔도 아니 답시 제공을 했어요. 송도가 다 제상가 전주기 심디 당보 전주기 심 송야디 전주기 심 친이버 말이에요. 전주기 셈디 전주기 셈 민그다네 right 딜라 전주기 셈 민그다네 아니 전주기 셈 송거레스 다디 콩다 롱창마도 도나를 요제 디 송고에게 내가 저버데 저생가다 제르무치 데 송샤 디 우마 콩 제르무치 우마 콩버 없이 나로라 디 야 야고시도 다디고서 오란주 남샤 준도 신이기 중식이나 우면나로리아 디기 슝기 민고라리아 dirden chösom sigre dirden basyache di khadu lo ya chidani gejeme bache di khadu de lo ya ani ningji chimbo di khadu tembe chanju sem di khadu tembe ani tongni tobe sherap siche sum de chanju sem tongni tobe sherap ningji chimbo sum de do sum gre dadi sum be kabri ya de chitu jermuchigi dadi tengi page thing teaching nyen chana chik durnanda yedi page chikze.
So good afternoon, and we'll start by reading a little down through the commentary on the 7 points of mind training by Gelsi Thomas Sambo. And I read this before, previously to the before the break, this third paragraph in the commentary, which reads, individuals who seek to attain unsurpassable complete and perfect awakening must set their minds upon enlightenment and then exert themselves in the cultivation of relative and ultimate bodhicitta. And then we have the quote from Arya Nagarjuna's precious garland, and we also have to sort of think about the reasons, what is behind these statements here, and the reasons why that Nagarjuna's quote is brought. So the commentary. Says that the complete and perfect awakening, those who wish to attain complete awakening must set their minds upon enlightenment. So this first of all, you have this, you set your mind upon enlightenment, and after that, then you strive in practicing the cultivation of the relative and ultimate bodhicitta. So the first, where it says, set your mind in enlightenment, this is not, this first one is not considered a real bodhicitta, but is just kind of given the name of bodhicitta. And this is made clear in quotations from the sutra, in J. Rinpoche's Illumination of the Intent, which is a commentary on Chandrakoti's Madhyamaka, Entering the Middle Way. And this comes up also in the debate commentaries surrounding these assertions here. There, in J. Rinpoche's Entering the Middle Way, this particular section of the text, the kind of subject material, is covered by a kind of outline which is called the three dharmas which are taught right here. It's something like that. So the three dharmas which are taught right here in relation to the end of the first verse of Chandrakoti's Madhyamaka Avatara is the three dharmas are compassion, bodhicitta, and emptiness. So that this is what we're going to discuss now.
제가 디구모 공부를 없이 쇼랑 접기 18 제 접기기 디나로네 시다 지기 12전 규베스 page 접기 page number 18 나를 페비나 단다 와르나 시 빠르더바 어디 나를 시베이나 아니 디그도 된지도 지기 12전도 수주비 초 2번이 케메레베 당부 켈럼베이노 시디아 트티버체 웬 양아르 그 비견님에 대해서 원하다 교미 가르스나 전주기 심년의 직송야 전주 심 계획 답시 적을 송야 전주 심년 직송 이버대 직송야 되니 교회 차기도 왔으나 디교회 요마르스 전주 심 중원도 좀 셈게바니 셈게 곰베갑로 공지스 곰발레 때니 심 곰베갑이 셈시도 마게베 게베치도 곰데베갑 셈게드리스 디 타니 차상로어드는 고데와스케미도 개체쇼디 가르레 주비나 배드닝 좀 쉬비줘야 배 가르레스나 불신식으로 봐 가지고 슈거를 깬 세드면로 인지기 불신기 롱아무치도 와 롱아무디 좋아 크도 용바데다 아니 디기 빡발라 디기다 지기 빡발라야 그 디비기 아니 나메기 따지기 갈소래 하마소베 디 니들 빼자지 아니 전주 셈스니디 부신 코란선도 지레스 다 단단 알아서 리리셰비 전주 셈세 단다 데도와 전주 셈 깨네 세디 어디 전주 셈디 하는 알아서 맞으네 땅 ranzo tande chanju gu sem ge samro de 닝지 디도 스치기 축체로 줘야 국갑지도 와 ranzo la ting anju kap yo chogu yo 디 인도 잠베 디라 chanju gu sem mingda shi da di ninga chimbu shi 통교 네 가르치는스나 mingda 점시 계정 제면도 가르치는스나 안주마 손에 참참 이게 다침부 시비지 레슬라 산지 닝지 침부도 다침부 레슬라 년도 내가 가서 그래 소남던 장선 소남던 조남 닝지도 배 다침부 레슬라 봐 라메 줄을 여베 전주섬도 다 닝지도 다침부 레슬라 말한 줄을 내 여베 닝지 시계 용도가 참배 딜 다고 되고요 말봐 제장은 딜이야 제바체 쳐도 아니 상지 랑기 아니 제장 너던 땡주 망부갑이야 너 도갑소 아니 지게 개발 생긴 땡주가 값소 말한주 리아 닝지 캐도 밥이 닝지 깨원도 선 텔레 전주스 민다고 망고 용고요 어디다 말한주 세미나로 양내 양도 디 공부를 코에 되게 좀 버렸어 디 가전스는 아주 사변 좀 들어봐 어디 인도다 디기 얘기 던지 내가 쉬고야 디 가전스는 아르시비 전주고 셈다 디 치수시비 전주고 셈니 버로를 개발디 가려서는 아마디 아주 지게 공백가다 마제버 제비체도 공대가다 chanjusem 계시도 디 chanjusem 신이버 말이 나디 딩제기 꾸노 넘버 타바 지기 닝지 셰체바 닝지 첨부요 요 말은 안 좋죠 닝지디 셰첨부 깨네 아니 가르쳐 버렸으나 군주다 전담에 chanjusem 공고를 있지 너도나 군주 심지다 전담 심지를 삼로 당고고는 인지민지 닝지기 꾸는고를 해서 적디 고고도 인지기 꾸네라는 마고바이나 아주 전주 셈다 동반이 가주스 주검샤베이나 규를 펜토야 개개매 봐 좋아 인도 좀 어떻게 디스쿠나다
And so here where we have we're talking about the first of all the first bodhicitta, and then that we're giving rise to setting our minds upon enlightenment, and then meditating on the ultimate, because of conventional and ultimate bodhicitta, and here so it sounds like you've cultivated bodhicitta, and then you after that you've cultivated bodhicitta again, which sounds very unusual. But I think a good example would be to take an example. If we took sugarcane, inside the internal section of the sugarcane is extremely sweet, but there's some way in which the sweetness of the sugarcane finds its way into this kind of the skin of the sugarcane, and so in the same way, something like the bodhicitta, the first one, is sort of like something which has the flavor of the main taste. So it's not. This is a kind of compassion that we can sort of relate to ourselves, and it's not. It's as the compassion. What happens is, as the compassion grows stronger, then you're able to direct your mind to the mind of enlightenment, so to bodhicitta. But this it's like a kind of preliminary. So the compassion. The compassion of the Buddhas we imagine to be so great. The compassion of the bodhisattvas on the paths of accumulation and preparation, and our compassion at the moment, we can't take hold of that kind of compassion or practice of bodhicitta. But in the sutras and other texts, the Buddha has spoken about this in sutras, and other great masters in such as the Tengir in the treatises. They spoke about many times where they've given. So this is a way of giving the name of bodhicitta to compassion, and they've often used this of giving the name to a form of compassion, a strong form of compassion. They give bodhicitta the name, so it's kind of like a seed of bodhicitta. It's not the actual bodhicitta; it's the seed of bodhicitta. So the first one is something like when we say that where bodhicitta has not arisen, may it arise. It's that time when we initially start to cultivate bodhicitta, and that would be in relation to where it says set their minds on enlightenment, and then later then you cultivate the much stronger understanding of much stronger understanding of the conventional and the ultimate bodhicittas. But in J. Rinpoche's illumination of the intent, it brings up this point and essentially says that if this is there's no fault in understanding it like this, because the previous explanation of the bodhicitta is at the time when you're what's spoken about is the time when we're cultivating bodhicitta, and then on the basis of that cultivation, then we give rise to a bodhicitta which is the actual thing. So then and J. Rinpoche uses this kind of example in his text where the skin of the sugarcane tree has something has like the taste of the actual taste of the actual sugarcane itself, but it's a kind of mind which is thinking, the kind of mind which thinks, oh, I need to obtain the state of enlightenment, and this is sort of more like just it's not fully cultivated. It comes out of it's brought on by repeating ourselves these words or this thought that I must attain enlightenment. So it's a kind of it kind of influences and increases our compassion to the point that later on we can then meditate on the real bodhicitta. Peace.
Oh yeah, that 도대체 다디 나로네 자와저보다 chanju 되게 데다베기 chanju기 셈다 아니 돈이도비 시럽 니가로게 자와저보데 단인지 침부제시 몸으로르고 있다 조 송데 디르샤 다디 인도점베 다딘지기 닝지암 chanju기 셈디 아니 곰베 다 아란조를 가르잖아 다른 거 샤우면 누가 뒤 탑켜봐 쉬어지려샤 상지 좀된들 예배 닝지 첨부딩아 저기로 한데 개월세 계제 멤버체 가전스나 다 만주 전주 셈 데든 최송게 나로네 타니부 수치 전주 셈지 딩아저 단다 슌비 가리아다 단다 tangi 스킨 간 예배기 아니 마르차스 쪽으로 봐 부름기 좋아디 그래서 부름사 부신기 좋아도디 다 아주 간제스 지제 존년도 고레스 지제 들려야 아니 당화한테만서나 가르쳐버려 시디 아니 당화들려야다 조침벽에 당화면잡 숨지 도스치 들려도 대달 공배 명아 세대 조디 당화 세대 명아 세대 저저저 조디 가르쳤으나 그 뜻이기 디기 테 탈라도 통토야지 디기 텐데 아치 다 전주기선 맨날 릭사마레 닝지 첨부지 맨날 릭사마레세기 아주 많습니다. 디기 삼로 레토야데 어디든 당마 고토야지 저장가 당마 딘디지 고야라야 또 조다 대박고지 조기 양내 양도 송구도 와 디인도 준비 조지기 딘디기 당하려야 당마데 낭킨 기 라마들 라마 숨유스 라마 숨 동문지 나온도 준비 아니 rinpoche 용도 당연히 리포르도 연직도 난다.
So then proceeding on in the text, it talks about the great precious single divine Lord Atisha received instructions on cultivating bodhicitta from three main teachers, which I'll discuss in a minute. But when we're talking about meditating on emptiness or bodhicitta or compassion, we have to make sure that what we don't do is just push this far away from us, like asking, oh, how can we develop in ourselves the compassion or the bodhichitta or the understanding of emptiness that it exists in the Buddha's continuum, in the Buddha's mind. We need to get something that we can bring close to ourselves in order to help us to proceed on the path. So, for instance, in the example of the sugarcane and the taste, the kind of residual taste of the sugarcane in the skin of the sugarcane, and so also we need to. So it needs to be drawn close to us. When we use the word in Tibetan, which is called menak, it's kind of oral instructions or personal instructions. One of the meanings that's given about here about oral instructions is to make things easier for us to understand or easier for us to see. And the kind of thing that would at our level, that would be something like, oh, if I don't have bodhicitta, if I don't have compassion, it's not okay. I won't be able to proceed on the path. That kind of level of instruction. So instructions are there to help us. The oral instructions are there to help us to easily understand things. So that would be the way to receive the instructions on a level which is suitable to us. And then Geshe Tomi-sama talks about the three gurus through which Atisha received the instructions on cultivating bodhicitta.
Lama mindraba sum jidane chogoda lama wushiwi yuebenan ten lama di sum di dachigi kari chimbu shiwiji yin sungu surba namchan gyundne chazanga ta lama tangbu di dirisha menga chogo thajigi isa damara kita shechawa rangi kusha cheni shenla jinshin cham nyingji bashi gombe tongni gi toba gyula chungpa tang sayde jikchucha 다 담아라 기다세디 인주도 체다마와 라마 임비유 체다마 라마 임바 관시지리야 아니 지나양다 지기 갈소래 닝지 전부 시부지 고민지리샤 다 제장가 닝지 전부 곰 세도 전부 당연히야 체다마와 인도 전부 닝지 전부다 찬주고 섬다 된데 공부 여러 먹을 세 저버데 단단하도 먹어제 개치슈디 삼로 가르도스나 디 오마 찌들 세베나 그런 디르샤 참 닝지 버시 곰베스 와타데 남샤준도네 디 슝디데나 통약하고 요래 찌디 참 닝지 버시 곰베 돈이 지 똑바 툭을 통보당 사시도 다딩에 지기 gen나버서 구도들이 건지들이 쉬게 중앙서 이나양 말에 담모 차르듯이 섬주 가리어 슬라비나 제단가 돈이 또 비시럽 귤 통여베 시시르도가 조지 오늘 제다마와를 소도가 다 지게 된제기 제다마베 로벤티 그래서래 닝지를 슈 지게 곰지 때나체 그와 참바당 닝지 시부지 검나 정신기 안에 돈이 또베 따와 줄 총용 그래야지 디견신 따디들이 닝지 코랑 전주고 쌤 가자 참바다 닝지 뭐시고 검바들이 돈이 또베 따와 줄 총야 여러베스나 디 총야 여러 알아주 제장가 남주 삼로디 당거 여러바 닝중 개체중 닝중데 제당가 인지게 나로라 compassion 시투점베 셴라 미네 compassion 랑라 미네 compassion 시그르바 다른 translation 세다 지유주 요래 이나야데 벽에 나로라 단다 소소소소라야 닝지 첨부세데 닝지 곰세데 요마레 닝중세 다가랑라고도 봐 제당가디 인도점베 닝중 기타와 삐타고지 깨발라 와 소소소소의 닝지 다 타녀들도 요 말에 다니는 지난주 먼저 지지기 게 돈이 고고 좀 개발합니다. 와 제장가 소소소소의 닝네 야고지 제고 주나 아니 동료도 가서 그래 소소소소 le 닝지 ya 보지 개바지 총배이나 동리지 고와의 새로 만들어나 타바 토교 여버지 마셴바 봐 아니 타바지 토바이나 딜레 하자다 아주 마선에 땡기 대화세지 봐 땡기 대화 딜레지 토교 여버지 마셴나 아니 아주 마선에 닝지기 신이고랑 삼로당비나 동일라 대버 대바 세티 대화 거를 얘기 못 봤어 닝지를 대버 대바 삼식이 가져래 열때 이내 단대 닝중기 삼백갑을 깨지시어 원도 잠배 동해 텐데세디 알아준 디 알아준을 단다 투투도 용해야지 동해 텐데 말이 디 동해 텐데디 코와 통화매번에 알아준 레닝지 코 고규 봐 레닝 상황진이 봐 안에 하바도 알아준 덕시 풍풍하고 나가로 아니 묘몽의 상황진이 봐 등승의 상황진이 봐 덴지지 디기 상황들 털규 여버지다 세버지 하먹어 봐도 아니 타바트니 쩌마만 입었어야지 가고를 지르도가 섬레 오지 담비나 어디 인도 잠배 제상가 그 개들 오늘 소소소소 장바다 닝지도 숙청보 야고 고바이나 랑싱기 디 동니 이랑과래야 티투부 여버서로지 어디 고도 단다 식디기 잠닝지 버시 곰베스 버시 곰베스 디치고 고비게 좀 말해 딜로 슉 잡아다 딜로 누가 차선 때문에 계절다 누가 차선 때문에 인자 안에 돈이도 다와 통주로 통보를 했어야지 이거는 정말로 이나야 지난주 샤바덴젤리아 칼롭슈 공고슈 예 투유시 오케이
and so in the first he talks about the first guru in the text, the guru Dhammarakshita, and it says the guru Dhammarakshita who cut and gave away his own flesh and realized emptiness purely through cultivating love and compassion. And so Joa teacher would have had many teachers, but he's singling out. Oh, hi, sorry. No, didn't hear anything there. No.
Yes, we did.
You did? Okay, good. So something came up on the screen for unmute myself. Okay, so Joa teacher had many gurus, but here what is being singled out is three gurus of his who he had particularly strong gratitude towards. And the first one, Guru Dhammarakshita, who cut and gave away his own flesh and realized emptiness purely through cultivating love and compassion. Now, Dhammarakshita was said to be a master from the Vaibhashika system of tenets, and but was also said to be a great meditator on compassion. So putting aside the debates which often occur about whether it's possible for Vaibhashikas to whether they have like strong love and compassion or not, it's kind of a little bit hard to read these words because it sounds like we're saying that purely through cultivating love and compassion, the realization of emptiness is born in his mind. And so I haven't actually received an explanation from my teachers about this, but I'm going to offer you what I offer you is a way that I can think about this in terms of because it does seem to be the wisdom of emptiness and even the cultivation of strong love and compassion seem a little bit contradictory in relation to Vaibhashana practitioners, but how we have to think about how this master, with his strong cultivation and cultivation of love and compassion, what kind of conditions does it provide, which then gave rise to the understanding of emptiness in Dhammarakshita's mind. Now, if we think about renunciation, and in the West, there's often a kind of way we discuss renunciation in terms of talk about renunciation as being self-compassion or compassion which is focused on ourselves. This is not so prevalent in the Tibetan literature, but there's a kind of sense of that if we take that sense anyway, where renunciation is to some extent is related to how we think about compassion in relation to ourselves. But if we don't have, because renunciation is the wish to achieve liberation from suffering, that's the kind of liberation from all suffering, and also to sort of achieve a kind of stable happiness freed from all of that samsaric suffering, then if we don't have a clear understanding of the wisdom of emptiness, then it's very hard to see how we can actually develop a kind of genuine wish to have freedom from suffering. We have ourselves the wish to have freedom from suffering. We have a sort of a kind of renunciation to be free from suffering. But if we don't understand that sense in which the five contaminated appropriate aggregates are from beginning, that from beginningless time we've ended up in samsara under the sway of the other powered, under the sway of karma and mental afflictions. And if we don't understand that and also through the causes of self-grasping, and therefore we've appropriated these contaminated aggregates, then how it seems very difficult to understand how we could get uncontrived renunciation to have freedom from that situation. And so how, in a sense, having strong love and compassion, even if it's focused on ourselves and our situation, would naturally lead us to the understanding of emptiness, and in the sense that then we have to understand what is the problem the situation that we're in, we have to be liberated from. So that focus of compassion acts as what I'm thinking is that it's not the absolute direct cause, this cultivation of love and compassion, not the absolute direct cause of the realization of in Dhammarikshita's mind, that was born in Dhammarikshita's mind, but it kind of it naturally leads us in that direction of trying to understand the empty nature of the world. So I may have made a mistake here, and others are welcome to correct me, but that's how I think about it.
다 양 라마 champion joba shechaba shingi dunya dala oso lenne bas ta digodo ya samlojik tangya de chezanga lama nibati champion joba sudta to koran champion joy mimishen de inaya ta chambali shibu jigi 가족을 신 잡아다 남기 닝지리아 개바체오도 전에 즉 동년의 트래블드나 냐바디 닝지체 대화도 되는 지마로 냐바디 참바리스 송구도와 제가장가 닌지기다 심지어 당시 대화되나 세제 지기 도시지 냠년제 dinhe기 내줘봐 친구지 제 잡아디 코랑기 컨디스 냠시는 것도스나 신기 안에 동년 달라 무엇을 내려봐지 다디 말아줘 저거봐 신기 동년 수용 도를 배세지 그봐 디 신기 동년 내 톱다 마토세야 되다 삼김집이 기저 용세르데 지단에 다 아주 랑기 쇠비기 동년제 랑기 용해름도 신기 용해게 용말봐 디 인도zambe 다 삼점이 제비네 당 용우유스레 다디야 그 삼점이 제비네 당체 단다 대가 저 삼점이 제비네 당 마십제 대 개치 쇼가르시아우도스나 신기 동에 땅 아니 랑기 단다 포커스 가리간 랭아죠 디딘 추송근안에 디딘 전주 우선당 디딘 인지 친분이 되는 저기다 삼로당에와 디인도zambe 신기 동년도 우선에 내년치도 삼로당 대비나 정신기 현의 인지 체로도 했지 다디 용어도가 원하죠 용어도가 미션바지 셈바마디브지 잘 좋은데zambe 그 인터넷이요 가마와 다 인터넷 가셔요. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'll just switch the internet connection because it's quite it's breaking up a bit. I'll just switch it over.
Okay.
hang on 1 second.
The rest of you, can you hear me?
Yes. Rinpoche,
Okay,
we can hear you well.
Okay. 제가 신기 동에 삼로 땅바 디 지금 세마마집 드롭이 qabla 랑신 소소이네 아니 세마마집 차기도 와. 디 세마마집 차비인데 그런 쪽이 거기도 와.
Disco younger the come cheek the youngest on the Betty Lashas the internet gigune Lashas.
Okay. 제가 미 세마마집사 소소 trouble 세마마집 예배 qabla 소소 파워 드롭이 qabla 아니 신기 동에도 삼로 땅용데 아니 소소 마집이 차기도 와. 다 도시도 동해 셰어 제베선으로 차기도 와. 그런 게 동해디 셰어 제베선으로 차기도 와. 디엔도점베 아니 소소 딜 텐체 소소베 마집이 데나다 고 초스케면도 와. 개체쇼리 가르도스나 다들 때가베 가리어스라비나 덴데 삼로 땅지 아니 신 동해 나와 미스니 신 동해레 타르베기 탑지 소소를 요나 아니 가주 심진기 동해 나와 동해기 삼로 마 땅바디기 아니 수수 동해레 신 동해레 아니 타르버 뇌주비기 듬바디 슈처로 와. 그 바당거는 들지 말베. 남경한 좀 들리기도 와. 배나 정보 lapje 잡혀야지 미 간이 트레이딩이 잘 돌아다 아니 lapje 잡마셔 봤다 삼로시다 통제 투제시다 매디니지 미지자로 돌아니데 백화가로 봐. 지금 뭐지비 냠동 의지 대해서마도 펜토 말을 지금 오늘 전에 안에 삼로당당 lapje 아니 동해디 소소용 아니 거기 소화들을 봐 내지 드시게 배디켜 받지 못하고 dinna 신시제 다다가 니가 도장아죠 삼점이 제베 삼로도 마담체 니가 도장아란제 다 신기 동에 나온 메시브 삼로 당원데 랑니리아 아니지 닝지 콤페도 줘야 돼야 개발 땡땡 루요 버딩아도 하고 그렇스
and so then the second master that is mentioned specifically mentioned here is the Guru Maitri Yoga, and it says the Guru Maitri Yoga who was able to take other sufferings directly upon himself. So I'm not sure about his name, but it has that his name in its very essence has this kind of sense of someone who's steeped in love and compassion, and here also we remember that this compassion is the wish that the wish that others be free of their suffering, and love being the wish that they find all happiness. So he must have been a great practitioner of someone who wished for the greatest happiness for all beings, and it says here that he took others' suffering directly upon himself. Now this is a little bit difficult for it sounds a little bit beyond the scope of how our thinking, because we kind of understand that the suffering that the causes of suffering made by us are our own suffering is made by us, and we experience that suffering, and that the suffering made by others is experienced by them, and it's not actually possible to directly take away suffering from others. So that seems a little bit unusual. When we talked earlier about these the three dharmas which are taught here, which is where in Chandrakirti's Entering the Middle Way, where he talks about compassion, the non-dual mind understanding non-duality, and the awakening mind, and this I think is sort of connected in here with these with the compassion and the awakening mind. So it connects back to that verse, and usually when we're around, if someone is undergoing very difficult circumstances, then we often think that if we sort of get involved with them or try to help or stuff, then actually the situation, even if we have compassion for them, that the situation tends to make us unhappy when others are unhappy, and one of those who are close to us, and when they feel unhappy and suffer, then we tend to so feel very unhappy about it. But here, what we but then that doesn't really. There's not much we can do. I mean, it leaves us with nothing to do if we just become unhappy. Even if we have the compassion. So here, what's important to take away is that if you understand if you see the suffering of the other people, and maybe they have deep suffering, but if you understand that there's a liberating method, a method which can liberate them from that suffering, then and you have that understanding of the liberating method, then your aspiration to help the other person is not, you're not sort of dragged down into unhappiness, but your aspiration to help the other person to relieve themselves of this, or to relieve them of the suffering, immediately increases. And you can see this, like if you have a couple of friends and one of them is not very maybe not very wise or experienced, doesn't have a lot of ways to give kind of advice that we can swallow, let's say. But then you have another person who has sort of lot of experience and very skillful, sort of deep ways of giving advice. Then we can see the difference that it helps us. That can help someone to, that kind of person can help the other person to really, to relieve their suffering more. So that feeling of not, if we understand that there's a liberating method from the suffering, then that is, we're able to bear, to see other people in suffering in that we're able to increase and strengthen our compassion towards those people, and we're able to be more effective as well.
Voilà, so da da lama siling ba da sumles da lama siling bigi da tanda di ngaran juge dojun tunju me gi nyamsul lang dang ge jumba di gi dangwa di ane lama siling ba ni ba yin song do wa lama siling ba da sum to ba le di lama siling bi lu yin sing sta lo jong ten dün gi to ne ane nga jo lo jang ju di Tela yan tuju minro mangdo yue jang gewe shini chegabe logi isa tundundu zedes. Ta yan lojong gi rinpa tanda di tato chige kenye lamdo gyuya tang, ane tene chige kalsore chanju gi sem jomba tang, ane che chige nyamlendo jeje ten tang dazo yan chige so samara manda tidang yusre. Ta tanda di kalso chegaba 기시 체급에게 아니 제대해서 다 온도 추기 다대로 저저저니 온지는 것도 와 온도 추기 때문에 동시 change system 좀 다들 저저저니 쉬 먹었지 다 I think 디겔 디키란지 줄난다 unmute
and so here, and so then it goes on. And so then the last guru of Lord Atisha that's mentioned is Savana Dvipa Lama Selimpa, and in this 7-point mind training, the instructions on on the practicing of the 7-point mind training is 7-point mind training, and the text that we're engaged in, kind of studying and contemplating here. It then says there are many different ways of presenting this instruction, but the tradition of Geshe Chekawa follows the 7 points, and then it goes on to say the preliminary teachings of the supporting instructions, the main practice, taking adversity into the path. There are many methods of guidance which are related to which were included in Geshe Chekawa's instruction. Which is received down from the tradition coming down from Lama Tselin.
Oh, the connection is a little problem. So you all can hear me? Okay. Now we need to go a little bit quickly because there are only 3 Saturdays, and then I have to cover up all the Lojong Tunduma, and then in the middle of the Lojong Tunduma, when that section where it talks about the Poa, and there I was thinking to open I did try to discuss about the Dakaishi, the
Sutra of wisdom at the hour of death.
The hour of the death. And then that means there's quite a lot to cover. So that's why I'm thinking we should move a little bit faster. Okay. By the way, I thank you, the Dharma Friends of Israel, to when I first hear about this specific sutra, I never heard of that before in my life. But what a shame, right? It's so beautiful and so inspiring. So then when I hear about that, and then I looked at it, it's so beautiful, and I got this opportunity through Dharma Friends of Israel. So I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to study and to make a connection with this. Okay. 당분간도 다 라버스 제 송대에서 덴주르 니와 가와당 지워미다바도 코웨 니미 공부도 숨래 당원도 지단에 당랑 중원도 공동원도 세디 세나로 드링카사망 제지기다 원도 스티도 담배람상 차제 차봄 면제봄 사야로서 람상지 서버 코는 것도 봐 삼로 코도 다디 digdi 유지리 이나양 가담베 라마조고 원종 문진난데 차봄 면제봄지기 지가면도 원로 세야데 문진난도 잠베테네 운퉁구데 단다딜시다 원로 탈라 라버체 송데 다단당 런조다 니 담메다 말라 제 단다 예 계속 통면 상벽이 원로티 문진난단데 덴조르니 바까와 치워미다바 코웨님이 공부 뒤숨된 거지 나는 거. 아다디 저 아주마 손에 단다 남림 치면 나로리아 기부충 진 첨부세 숨기 나로네 저 기부충기 아니 따지게 똑같이 체디 녀고 시간을 납자라도 봐. 제가 로종이 냠는 진행기 기부 숨기 나로네 체 가발레고서는 인지 민지 마타 임베 기부 충분 나로 수도 가지고 그랬어. 봐. 다 기부 등다 충분히 그 뻘로 될라 당원에 전에 먼저 딱 기부 등기 나로를 삼바드기 대비나 딱 코sam을 줘버리는 디그멘도스 아니 랑진진 디기 아니 단답하도 저게 펑버리 아니 신진진 매비나 심진기 된집에 너가 용수 줘봐지 말로 너가 랑체수 여버디 나랑 엄마 심버디 베레스지에 삼로당단디 신의 기부 등당 기부 충분히 버르디 다 계제더라도가 단상한 주디 대상한 주다 원로 가르라고 그랬지 기부 충분히 사다도 쓰고 와래 디 뉴턴베 단다 덴저니 바까와 삼바다 치워메다바 솜바다 코위기 니미세야 됐다 저 기부 등디 레빙 거도와 어디 인도점에 네버도 먼저 기부 충 당분이 기부 충 아니 타마디 기부 등디 삼바티 또 시제 디 온도래도와 세상에 다른 속에네 맞으디 현재 세월배 고마종을라 로종 진행이 미디 간대고 유나스 어디다 저디 랜디 잡을다 당분간도 달라로스 당고 맞으면서네 디민두스 가서래 라브레 토름 유니버시티를 로렘두스 단다시네 가서 원로 이게 플라메리니리 kindergarten 기 디네알 두유레샤스 어디네도 수도가 디네야 야오레샤 띵아란도 랍자 야오레샤
Okay, then we come to the section on the where it says in the root text it says first train in the preliminaries, and usually what comes to our minds when we talk about the preliminary practices, most of us what will come to mind is the idea of doing hundreds of thousands of prostrations and mandala offerings, that kind of thing. That's okay. Of course, okay as preliminary practices, but in the Kadampa sort of literature, they make no mention of those kind of things. So here it says what Geshe Tomisamba says in his commentary about what it means to be preliminary practice is to talk. He says this constitutes of three contemplations. On the contemplation on the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages, contemplation on death and impermanence, and then the contemplation on the trials of samsara. And so, so this also, kind of fits in with the division of the Dharma practice into the three scopes: the lower, middling, and greater scope of practice. We need to. We were talking earlier about what does it take to be a mind training practitioner, and also in relation to that, here we can say, well, what if we connect to the three scopes, which the mind training practices, what level would the mind training practices be taking place if we relate it to the three scopes? And of course, the absolute minimum level would be that it would have to be the person of the lowest scope, but Rinpoche did they call Tambonidi yeah. So the first two here, the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages, and the contemplation on the death and impermanence are kind of subsumed within the lower scope, and then then if you start to think, well, you don't want only to be only from the kind of sufferings of sort of lower realms, but to be completely free from the sufferings of all of samsara, then you think, well, it's the chan ko la chimwa de ki dasin yimba ko dasin di tonne or dirba.
고위님이 상무대 점배다 동이 통고 요르바 담에 통고 요르바 이 류점배 딱 있네 코알레니 코와서도 체디지고 말봐 딱 코웨네 젤리아 다지게 탄델레 류점배 아니 기부딩.
So then you come to the the sense of which, okay, not just from the sufferings of, say, the lower realms, but then wishing to not to be relieved of the sufferings of all of samsara, not in this, but in all future lives, to be freed from all of the sufferings of samsara. And then we look at what is it, and to develop that wish that wishes to remove ourselves from that situation. Then without understanding emptiness, then it's hard to see how that could occur, and therefore we see that it's the kind of self-grasping, grasping at the inherent existence of the self, which has dragged me down into this situation. And then we need to recognize that situation, and then we develop a wish to completely liberate ourselves from samsara, which is essentially subsumed within this the middle scope. And so so in that sense, you could say that the practitioner, the practices of the smaller scope become the preliminary practices, which, and then moving up towards the middling and greater scopes. And as I said, we asked before, what kind of person? So we were talking about, we were asked this question right at the beginning: what kind of person is it? What kind of qualities does it take? What is a mind training practitioner basing their practice on? And so this gives us an understanding of that. cose you paid. Rinpoche's frozen. I'm not connected. Where did it stop?
Simon, we hear you. Yeah. Simon?
Yeah.
We hear you.
Okay. Simon, you were saying something.
Yeah, word.
What was I saying? Which bit?
You were asking Rinpoche a question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Rinpoche did the case in the Tamadigi University.
Now I can't hear you. Just hold on. Okay. Go ahead. Unmute yourself. Yes.
The case in the Tamadigi University paid or Nanzo Kaze KG dan University turn up to the Adu the paid Naratu or some country, you know.
제가 디 가르치기도 니 가르치고 있으나 원주 당부 로종 기 미치니디 스탠더드 디 과르지 고주고도 쓰나 자기는 간대고 있으나 원주기 랍다마서는 상만 더 사줘지
야
원주 랍다도 더 차비 쇼라 신에 아니 기부 딩기 저거는 더 신에 되니 기부 침배 저거는 레벨 말에 값도 지르도 봐. What is here?
So when we ask sort of what sort of level, then we would say that a practitioner, what kind of standard, the kind of level or standard would we say that a practitioner of the mind training practices is? So it's really someone who's already sort of got through the preliminaries and then is sort of moving, in this case, is moving between, sort of coming up to the level on the border between the middle and greater scope, Didra. I've lost it. Can you hear?
No, did you shut that? Normally, you can hear me?
Yes. Rinpoche.
Okay. Normally, many people I meet, people they don't have much understanding about emptiness. They don't have much understanding about great compassion and bodhichitta, but they will say, "I love Lojong so much." So I just wanted to hold this opportunity and then to make sure why we are saying we love Lojong very much and how you love Lojong very much. Yes, it sounds so beautiful. If this is something similar, saying I love Michael Jackson's song very much, then no problem. But here it means something totally different. It has to go with the meaning. So that means if you say I love Lojong very much, that you have to say I love bodhicitta very much. It must come with that. So that's why I just wanted to say, yeah, then I think there is something not very clear about the first guru. So Fabrizio has one question. So Fabrizio, please go ahead. Okay. Can Fabrizio talk directly to me?
Can you hear me, Rinpoche?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Rinpoche, my question, I have to do it in English, so maybe other people can hear it. My question is, in the first guru, the Dharmarakshita, I mean, the point is not very much that he was a Vaibhashika, but the point is that meditating exclusively, like Bhashik, on love and compassion, which means practicing exclusively method, right? So the practice of method doesn't even cut the root of samsara. So what I'm thinking is how, with just the practice of method, Bhashik, being able to, with that, realize emptiness, because here it doesn't sound like a kin. It sounds like a gyu. instead of, it doesn't seem to be just a condition. It seems to be like a cause. With that, he got into that. That I didn't get very well your explanation, Rinpoche. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you so much for this clarification. Tadi chizanga damara kita chirame lama chati yore. Chizandi indu tangbo tongbo ni liya benata tingyu bi tawa la soba dezul ya ani taji chedal singye chagi yor. 다 닝지 그 공부의 체로 참배 공부의 체로도 담배 아니 디기다 소남 마손의 체로치 섬로 당반의 자체로 담배 디 슈디 담바다 닝지 디기 괜찮니 아니 돈이 또버지 뉴를 충분해 제가가 데네송데 제라모 많이 받쳐먹는 거였지 제 생각에 이게 던지 주변의 신체제 전주의 섬당 아까자 전주 섬에 장바당 인지기 gen시니 아니 코알레 트비 겐텐텐시도 그랬어. 배나 담아라 기다도 샤샤베나 제라메 라마레 당메마도 지기 최탐지 랑신지마 줘봐 장이 친이지마 줘봐 켈링기 요 말이지. 이나야 닝지당 로자 저 닝지당 장바디기 공지 수준부 때문에 되네 이 gen시니 타르 담명osum 통보지 중부를 했어. 어디 꿀마 계획 꿀마 세트 어디 내려오시 이 배진 주르고 있나 저런 사면기 bodhichitta
and so in relation to Fabricio's question clarifying question there the Dharmakshita, who was a Vaibhashana, so originally if he'd looked at the Prasangic view of what the nature of reality, he would have initially seen it as a kind of real a view which would leading straight to nihilism, but these words tell us is that through the very strong love, through generation of very strong love and compassion, there's a huge increase in kind of merit, supporting merit, and through that power that provides a condition for emptiness to be born in his continuum. So then at that point probably become a non-Vaibhashika because you have to so those strong become love and compassion becoming strong conditions to achieve liberation, and then through that very strong cultivating habit of cultivating that, it's initially where he couldn't understand that you see all phenomena as not existing from their own side or not existing inherently, then at some point it would become like a strong cause and condition for him to actually see the emptiness and therefore to see the root of samsara.
Voilà. 다데네 덴지 다디 도스 추즈마 쉬는 타면도 당아란조만 손에 아란조다 아란조세네 듣도다 아란조기다 냠네 컨서더디 콜 큰것도 슬라비나 다 다가란제 원도들 제상가 다다 중기요 맞죠 제상가 원도 달이야 라본도 잠베 다딘나로 덴줄니에 바카와스 네 치와 메타바다 코에 님이 성부리 세딜라다 제시종도 잠베 최주비 덴주기 밀류디 토발라 유게와 부송소바 조괴라스 봐 디디지 토발라 최주비 덴주기 밀류 토바들선 당아란도 삼월로 삼을당베나 최주부여르베 조부여 다 최시비 최디 가르레스나 뇽몰리 탑규주여나 타르바지 토규여나 세요 디레도 데바트리샤 덴지기 주비기 땡땡 안 소리 요시 덴지 땡디 자침부 시부레 스두잔베 금진 가르레 덴지 용야디 큐푸송 소바질 땐마도 연구요 덴지 삼로디 푸송 소발 마도 미용의 금진 가르 따디 금진을 워디 유포선 초벌을 두괴라스 타마디 경쟁치도가 디 유포선 초벌 말하는 유포선 초벌을 때네 단대의 중벌을 유포선 초벌 지면은 안저를 단다디 용구마리 두다 드분이 버르고 잡았지 디인류 개시슈디 말하는 드린 최신년 제야디 개와 상부를 제 가르치면서는 유포선 초벌된 중벌을 디마조나 드린 아주 최디 지금 말해 양 아주 내가 천사지 제리요 디타치고요 다 주된 지위가 남자들아 제가 디 야고도 보존 소고 주고라 아니 심진기 나나 둥진 쳔바디 가르래 심진기 나나 안조 단다 개와 상부지래 디메나 심진기 나나 개와 남다 두번 용베스 다라 다른 것은 전부링데 나로 찍대다 수수는 미네이래 스스기 김제 이내래 정보 김제 근데 집이나 개와 주변 한장용요 샤도 쇼 디고자냐 스타디도스 똑깔아 튼들로 소바 로와셴라 되베이나스 다디 심젠 나나스 지드 라란주 정보 침제 일단 되고요래 튼들로 소바 셴라 되나스 랍두 잠베 다 디리 년절 되베이나 아니 베 덴조 터바 세브 잠도 쓰려다 와르주기 가서래 다 섬로 야고치 땅베이나 미드 잠불리는 배 먹으래 덴조기 밀류 바래 밀류 좀 터버래 밀류디 밀류 rinpoche를 주부제를 쓰듯 완전 밀류 주부제 밑 소수 류덴디 랑제 디바 소가 용배 손럽지 밀류녀라 소가 용배 손럽지 니는 얘냐래도 봐 제장가 랑신기 니디 제바디 밀류뉴도 선 삼로당이 빼공부를 봐 제장가 디인도 디기 카세브 책도 봐 제장가 다 딘데 점배 다기 돔디 경도 다기 터린 덴조 토바디 템메바 민규버 최난다지 제그 냠도 곰 쓰다 곰 당부디 원주 곰 당부디 디르샤 이 양내양도 섬당 모두 소소 간대지 임바다 소소라다 간다 아주마 손에 지게 소소 남주야 소소를 톱이 취하다 아니 소소기 지기 소소도 체비기 아니 진진기 라마도죠 근데 제주 중부의 개와 상부를 양내 양도 고려해야 돼 제정가 된조 푸송 소바 임바디 섬도에 계신 것이야 이 당부들도 와
And so then looking at the three preliminary practices which are mentioned here, the contemplation on difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages, on death and impermanence, and on the trials of samsara. And so in terms of the freedom, in terms of the freedoms and advantages, it says, for the first, we contemplate the following: to obtain this support for practicing the Dharma. Then when we say the Dharma here, we have to be talking about a Dharma, form of the Dharma, which frees us, which enables us to free ourselves from the mental affliction. So that's very important. And then it says a human body with its freedoms and advantages. And so this, what we know, we talk about the humans, the human body as a tremendous support in terms of being able to, engage with a very valuable support. And the reason we talk about it as being a very valuable support is because it's a complete, a kind of great completion of many, a perfection of many causes in order for us to be born as a human being. If those causes and conditions were not in place, then we wouldn't be able to attain a human rebirth. And so this, if they're not there, it won't come. It's a simple cause and effect relationship. And so it needs to be a collection of a huge number of kind of perfect causes in order to allow us to have a human rebirth. And then also the tremendous fortune. And so it says we must have accumulated the cause, which is abundant virtue. And then, in terms of being able to engage with Dharma practice, this is a tremendous, great fortune for ourselves. And then it says, among sentient beings, very few practice pure virtuous action, and this means that the resultant freedoms and advantages are difficult to gain. So looking across, even we don't even have to look across all sentient beings, but thinking about sentient beings in general. But then if we just think about our friends, our family, our associates, and how many of them are actually engaged in, positive ways of behavior, and how many are engaged in negative forms of behavior, then there's very few which are engaged in pure virtuous practice. Then if we look at the animals, if we consider other beings such as animals, we can appreciate how rare it is to find the freedoms and fortunes. So then, again, looking down into looking in general at the lower realms and how difficult it is to achieve, so then we've attained this precious human life, and it's quite possible to use. Many people do use a precious human life for committing kind of harmful actions to others. So and there are very few that actually take that human life and make a commitment to not harming not harming others as much as possible. So this is the contemplation of the first preliminary practice, as explained by Geshe Tomi Sambo. And we have to look, and it's important again for us to look at ourselves, to look at the behavior. What are the kind of Dharma practice that we've engaged in and achieved? What's our behavior like? And we have to look at these things in terms of ourselves and how they relate to the susugi dane ani cause dejugi den yangi toyegi this the ratu gore marbe this sonrobe
소소로 야다 지기 덴조 조주 상비기 아니 루덴 케버진 니 여바디 모신 거랬어요.
Yeah. So we have to really recognize, appreciate the fact that we have that we've achieved this precious human rebirth, complete with all the freedoms and advantages. We have to really kind of appreciate that.
다디 제장가 디나로리아 대매버 민주벌 최남다지 최고 세지도와 다 대매버 민주바 시두점베다 딜리아 지기 다 란주 대매버 민주바 시두 딜리아 다 쟁아바 기시 쟁아바 여러봐 쟁아비기 하늘 로마절로 가도 얘네 랍제 직중리스 와 미다바 공고그리 치워 미다바 전고그리 해서 랍제 될이야 랍제 직중리스 가전선 디 랍제디 가도 얘네 고쪽단디 우먼주비기 다단다 당기 우먼주비 측징에 지난주로 디 사면을 표인바 어디 간세랑원 주진 튀내바 개대대다 점벌 메시나 양서를 홍비 상원 주주베 델레 친에 관계롱원 주고 다디디 대매범 민주비 랍제디레 제장가 단단하라는 좀 손에 야구체내 소소라고도 두자체내 소소라고도 와. 다 야구체나니 그 야구체베나 두부 대화를 두자체나 두부 동네 임바디 다 최루도 디인도 잠베 다 단단하원데 리주에 갑라 말한 저기 라완디 배조당도 가지고 그레스 다디 라완데 라바이나 양조 딘저기 지기 야고지 재난 다다인 다 독자지 마시는 다다인 야고지 제반 쳐봐서 삼로디 양조 마지 로차나 레뇽이 상황질 당선나 아니 지기 밀리르 무지 라 톱세야디 조직하고라도 와 제장한테 인도 잠베 말한 저기 덴저는 여바데 된 여바지 두고리 세 된디다 마타 임베기 아란주 네 페마토는 네 메지 세딩한 되고 다 상지 랍자 당부디 차기도 봐.
And so there's a very important line just at the end of that first section on the freedoms and advantages, where it says, now that we have found these freedoms and advantages, we must not allow them to go to waste, is what it says, or don't use them for meaningless purposes. It's kind of more the Tibetan says. So here, when in with Geshe Chignawa and the advice from the Geshe Chignawa and the masters like that is often comes in the form of meditating on impermanence and meditating on death and impermanence, and lots of their advice comes in that kind of context. And this I think there's from the fifth verse of the second chapter of Chandakirti's Entering the Middle Way, where it reads, if when free and living with favorable conditions, we do not retain this status we enjoy, we will fall into the abyss and be at the mercy of others. What could enable us to rise up again from such a state? And so what this verse is telling us is that we kind of have our own future in our own hands. If we, at the moment, we're to some extent under our own control, if we choose to engage in negative actions as a cause, then the result will be suffering. If we choose to engage in positive actions, then the result will be happiness. So there's some sense in which we have the situation a little bit in our own hands, and we need to take that situation and use it. What the verse is saying is that later on, if we fall into the abyss, it says in the verse, and be at the mercy of others. So if under the sway of karma and mental afflictions, we're dragged down into lower realms and we lose this precious opportunity, this precious human rebirth, then again, it'll be very difficult for us to achieve, to obtain and achieve a precious human rebirth. So even at the bottom line for us is that advice which is often given, that even if you're not able to help others, at least don't harm them. So this is this kind of bottom line practice for us in order to stop this from occurring.
Tene nibati ta zo denju ta rimba thukna pesa garba ta tangbo denju gi milu rimbu chen chingala rawan dus ngala rawan mindu lenyen shangwan je res la ba ina ya lenyen gi shangwan chen gi jesun roman ro gi rawan chenbu chik ngal den dus te ta je ta di shugul le de ga rawan ye ba di ta di 지게 빼고 거는 삼을 땅고 유네 병원 거는 삼을 땅 특히 타지네 다디 곰고요. 띠텐텐도 삼제디 곰 사비 슈라 땅 아주 마선에 디 망체게 제 다가랑 제세도 커버레데다 간이 제준 이바들이 단 이바디 가르쳐서나 셀러 예바 매진 치비 긴 신도 마웨 드링자면 미치비 댕야 민도베 다단인의 취를 배워치고 삼다딩 아주 레로기 상황도 로제 마당아르버지나 다베 레로 상황도 로제 최대 자신보인 봐 라메 거진 여봐 랑란줄 잡던 거는 본인 진행이 라마도 최 니가 여거든 아주 다 켈렌 두요데 이나에 소소디 랑가간 로마토바디 다 디리 레로 상황진 심부지 저장가다 레로들이야 갑자기 작난들이야 다 저장가 구마당단들 다 미다바 마곰발라 탑민도 다 미다바 고모도 잠베 아니 가르레스나 첼레니바민도 시디 마란주 첼레니바 여베 손도지 체스되고요 남셔전도 간르스되고 슬랍데 다시게 전에 시주는 정말 시주를 했을 그래 봐 그래 이나양 가르스 그래 다 베젠 단도 로싱아 제달 헬려 요래 상고요 가전서는 체접사 가르스 수수 탕려 되기 지 루불기 치와다 도 용어다 상아도 삼로거려 말 띵 안저를 요마선 밀 중등 안저 현도요 소설도 삼로거려 밀 어제 고베 로지 영화를 니슈리 로 10주리 숨주리 고 정하셨을 때 아주 현을 토록도 현 토약이 다디 가르스는 안저 들이야 콤지다 이지메 다디 등요래 대인도 잠베다 제제셔도 단단한 저 가르치고 있으나 다 치워디 타릉부 상의 춘이마동 스타카다 벨라마조 송나 데도와 치워 타릉부만 좀 치워 초 연구 요지 상을 당하셨어. 그봐. 당 아주 장시다는 데에서 그렇지. 그봐. 치워를 도 장시다는 데는 치워 초 연구도 다 타르 니르 통으로 봐. 니냐다 다 단도 때지 되고요. 저리 채우르스. 장시 때부터 때부터 그 생기긴 근데 속여 드레지 삼르스탄 다 있나요 지위견 들은 것은 뭔가 쉬울 수도 같다 단다 알리니자다 지금 알아서 달 정불링이 내다 직되다 어다 지금 내함 잠자 아니 지금 지금 차주 배야 돼 송대다 지금 내함 송대 창물로 아주 지위견 견자리 마외 다 다른 점이 미치고 드링 시그마르세 켈렌 투에 거랍니두스 이제 좀 다다니네 제고를 딘데지 섬로마다나 람림 시원하로 딘데지도 딩아 심을 편부시다죠 디단다 디지 그도도 쉬나 쇼란디 자데 겔 던지니 사면다 퍼비지오 퓨임바 어디직스가 다 단다디냐 디지 교나샤
And so then we're moving on to the second of the preliminaries here, death and impermanence. But actually, of course, it's very important this kind of sequence which is worked through with the preliminaries is very important. Yes, you can say in a kind of technical sense, you can say that we are completely other-powered by mental afflictions and karma. We're completely under the sway of mental afflictions and karma. But there is some way in our lives that we do have some control over. We do have some control over our actions to some extent. So that's sort of connected to the last piece of the freedoms and advantages. So then with that in mind, then we come to the second of the points, that death and impermanence. And it says, meditate on how life is uncertain and there are many circumstances which can lead to death, so that we cannot be certain we will survive even today. And so, you know, we're very we always come under the sway of laziness, even though we've met incredible gurus and the opportunity to study or practice. It seems difficult for us to properly follow the path sometimes. And this is we're kind of influenced by laziness. And the only thing that's really going to help us to directly kind of to counteract that sense, that habit of laziness, is for us is the meditation on impermanence and death. And this, life ends in death. Everybody, everybody after birth, and inevitably comes death, and that comes to everyone. And we often sort of think, well, I'm definitely not going to die at the moment. My body's I'm in good health, and yet this is no guarantee. This is a kind of way that we're just kind of putting things off into the future. And a sign that we don't understand about these things is when people who are very, in the 15, 20, 30, 40 years old, they die. We're completely shocked by this. And this is a sign that we haven't acculturated ourselves to the habit of understanding, and we haven't developed trusting faith in the fact that, for instance, death, death is when the time of death is uncertain. We push it a long way away, but actually the way we should engage with it is to think that death is not a long way away, but that death is close and is coming, kind of coming soon. But instead of putting it at a long distance, actually what we need to do is we need to prepare for that situation. And as it says in the text, there are many circumstances which can lead to death. There are many causes for death. So, and this is very easy to see in the world, where we see there's you have even situations, there's sickness around, the kind of pandemics, that even where extremes of heat and cold, all of these things can all be causes for the death of sentient beings. And we have to be able to, we have to understand that the problem is that we can't accept that we think that we're not going to die. We can't accept that we're going to die. So that's one of the main problems. And this morning when I was looking through the text I came across a quote from Rinpoche's Great Stages of the Path to Enlightenment, which I thought I would share with you now.
So, my teacher said something when we how to prepare death is whether the death is coming soon or not doesn't matter, but it is for a practitioner. It's really important that you should always be prepared, because it's one reality there. So because it's a reality, the practitioner should always be prepared. So he is saying that we should, the example should be like you are watching the death through the binocular.
Binoculars.
So, yeah. So thinking that even though the death is quite far, it's because you are going to stay for 20, 30, 40 more years. But then if you look at the binocular, the death is coming. It's quite near. So that for the benefit of looking through the binocular is now to have a more preparation to the death. So there's a watchtower in an early age. Now these days we have a kind of a satellite. So that's why it's a very helpful way of thinking. So when they hear about we should prepare for our death, it sounds like very strange, especially in the West. So it doesn't mean that you should be bring more suffering in your life. It is something you should be prepared, because once this shocking thing comes in front of you, if doctors says you have a cancer, then you feel like, okay, I'm ready. This kind of spirit, or this kind of the strength you need in your mind. So that is kind of a teaching of benefit of preparing for the death. Okay. Now if you don't prepare about to death, then Lama Tsongkhapa is saying the Nyamto Sikshua, the Shodan Jatake 108, the Nipa Namchi Nyame Samba Nisa, Tiring Penji, Jatsunje La Chiwa, Omar Nyesing, Ti Parji, Sha Kang Manebe, Tiring Dinima Androni, Wenjangsa, Lo Chiwi Choso Sune, Tiring Chi Nyebe, Lo Jegwe Des, Jumze. Dinima Chuna, Tiring Michi Nyaba, the Pejer Michi Nyabelo, Tiring Machiva, Tiring Sigmare, some had the chick. Tirini from the par those Sigmare, some yag, some do, Jedevina, Chong Karagana, 30 chair Agmaris Sore. 30 chair Agmaris Lama, Tedua. Sona said, did it dirt up Cheves? That said, they need to race. They are angry, some of race. Say, they are on a day, get 30 chair on you, Carjinson. Jigdin Chime, some of the Coralars. That didn't got war. Just say the Haraldo, there's na. And Shuma Paji, Pena, Anzomason, and Jonkanchi Nalola, Yurumbuch, Devina. Tobia would you touch Rama Tangos Lana and be hurt old war. Tap and a Jonkanchi, and Jonkanchi Paperoches, Nimakashi, Labiona. Ani Sunny to just over slept to some back super register. 어디나신 삼로디나 아주기 터디디 임지 고고요 그래서 세상 아주 렐로 숙심부 유도 잠배 다른 시그마를 선이 시그마 너니 시그마를 삼야디 아주 정말 보시지라고 그러다 딜랍제 하고 그러죠. 어디 지로나.
And so in terms of the quote from the Lamrim Chenmo, it says it's on the section in the Lamrim Chenmo where it talks about the contemplation that the time of death is uncertain, and then it reads, it's certain that death will come sometime between today and 100 years from now. It's uncertain on which day it will come. Therefore, for instance, you cannot determine when you will die. Now, the crucial part here is the section which says, however, you must assume that you will die and should think, I will die today. Because if you assume that you will not die and think, I will not die today, or I probably will not die today, you will continually make, so that's kind of giving like if you assume that you will not die, then you will continually make preparations to stay in this life and not prepare for your next life. So this is the main fault of thinking that we won't die, that we won't die, that we're not going to die in now, is that we don't make any, or in today or in a few days or in a short period of time. The trouble is that we don't make any preparations then, and what we're actually doing is we're essentially making preparations not for the future life, but preparations to remain in this life, and we're not thinking about how we have got to die and go on into the future. A way of thinking of this through example is to think of if you stay in a hotel or a guest house for a very long time, and then suddenly one day the owner comes to you and asks you to leave, you're completely shocked. But if you've been continually moving from hostel to hostel every few days, then if somebody asks you to leave, then you're kind of ready to move on. And so this is all born out of a strong habit of laziness, which keeps saying to ourselves, I'm not going to die today, I'm not going to die tomorrow, I'm not going to die in the next week or so, in the next few days. And this habit of laziness is our main problem. I can't hear you, Rinpoche.
Okay. That's somebody 기타 가르랍자 가르치는 것도스나 다 저기 somebody 내가 친구 집에 차도 가전스나 말한 쪽이 다 preparation 재단디 러고도와 preparation 재단 컨트레스 슬라베나 또 교계월에 디부 가서래 대화 디부 주민계월에 디부 동의스 지지 용야디 춘이레스 아디 samloji taung do zambe tati gyuda dibu gi namsha de seuji hamogona ani ngaran jogi yije ligyo ma ta ngaran jo 진짜 yije malebe ta del kariyor slana anamsa samlo nalola namsha gyundu da che chebe kabla sembajibu yudu zambe ani ngaran jo orere ta dibo chi yo ma re gewa chego re se di kenan son bicho tene 지금 소수 캡상그 된다려야 아니 지금 정신시하고 연애를 한번 시하고 연애를 다들 레고의 중전도 디 거발리스나 규디 제차나 지부디 첩리세 디그 삼로 당한도요 규디 제차이 슬라브나 다디 얘기 칼나로려야 도지 세비나 마시어레 라바디 매를 주비나 니 주부도 차야래 디타 쳐버나 신지 뉴텔레데니 디부디 기그레스야 때가도 타 쳐요 디 뉴잠베 간달랍자 숨바디 곰숨바 퀄리티하고 원도디 스워당 원주 가서 곰숨바 가리간 잡송도스나 기디리 디부 동에 총 송비 디바 탐지 뽕고 통고를 당부 뽕고단데 좀 전에 삼말 왔다 아니 개와 지뉴스 디제소 아니 개와 지뉴스도 그렇죠 디 인두선배도 알아줘 남주 다전제바 세주바 친이 유쇼나불라 완전 선배 rangde nyugo kiye indes 봐. 아니, 그래서 줄을 조시 초월서 신임비 시스 따고 온도 전에 다 개념에서 타주어지래. 말한줄 쓰고 왔다. 신딩 말한줄 답줘들이. 딘디 전에 다 지구 지기 야도 도니 나로네 도디기 하다 할람 타주어서 그렇지. 딘디 전에 개념에 저는 개념이야. 제가 개인 코랑이 개인기 아니 랍전남be 가브리야 이마지 다처럼 지기 단대 다전 제바가 리버디 슈마 시갈 하버텔라 아니 미지 용체 저랑이야 다 내서 철 저버서 지디기 신샤만의 최제 란데 누구 개념 인데스 다 나도 누구 시도다 두부 두어도 개념 인데스 녀바 개념바 인데 아니 저랑 내서 줄을 저거 창도가 슬라나 땅으로 렌잡토가 좋나 다 단다 봐도 저랑 빼졌다 봐도 그쳐yes 단도양 차와마 총스 때나 아니 다 저랑이 다들로 좀 제시죠 개개 펜토요 말이지 될랍죠 쉬우죠 대인도 좀 알아서 한번 집어 봐 대인도 좀 삼로나로 답에 리베기 제된제 아니다 레귤을 이지지 만약에 봐도 샤주그 셈 닝지 닝중 상만 가거다. 아주 된 가야 야지르다. 딱 쇼잡나 가왔다고도 쓰는 정보 생활은 중에 전에 아니 주개와 제베는 주개와 용구리 주부 동네 가서 주 민개와치나 주부 동네 야지 그래서 답에 타셔 가지고 다네 중차비 쇼라 아니 아주 신에다 이봉무시 전주 생리 정화 나왔어야 될 딱 되버다.
And so moving on to the third of the preliminary practices, the trials of samsara, and this is an incredibly important point because we need to think about having talked about needing to prepare ourselves for the future. We need then the methods of preparation, and so it says at the beginning, consider how it is taught that virtuous and unwholesome actions result in pleasure and pain. So this virtuous actions resulting in pleasure or happiness, unwholesome actions resulting in pain, this kind of cause and effect relationship is just the nature of things. So it's just the nature of how things are, and but in some way that we don't we have no trust in we have no trust in this at all. We have no trust in, and the sign that we don't have any trust in the direct relationship between committing virtue and happiness, committing unwholesome actions and receiving pain or suffering, is that when all our dharma, when everything is going well for us in our dharma practice, we're happy to engage in all the virtues, but if something goes a little bit wrong for us, and for our own sakes or benefit, we have to perform some kind of, we have to kind of deceive or lie to people or something like that, then we're often prepared to do it. And there's and we have to understand, this is a sign that we haven't understood that very natural relationship between causes, how if you perform this particular kind of cause, the effect will arise. If you don't perform this particular kind of cause, the effect will not arise. And we need to get a very strong, decisive understanding of that relationship, and therefore it says, with that strong, decisive understanding, it then says, therefore, we must avoid all unwholesome actions and practice virtue as much as possible. So it's kind of like, in the sense, there's almost like a kind of time sense there, where you avoid, or avoiding all unwholesome actions and then engaging in virtuous practices. we need to get a strong. So we need to. This I think is also related to what comes up in the kind of philosophical text. It comes up in Dharmakirti's Compendium of Pramana when there's a section, and this was advice which was given to me from one of my teachers. In relation to getting decisive, getting a very sort of decisive ascertainment of the relationship between causes and effects, and it comes up in a particular topic which is called the fourth sign. So actually, the fourth sign is not. It's Dashin Shiva is called Diana Maria. Dashin Shiva Diana means in Genes Labdua. So it's actually not actually a valid syllogism, but it's a syllogism brought by others, which is not accepted by by Dharmakirti. But it says, the example goes, in a springtime field, which has the complete conditions of barley and seeds, water, fertilizer, heat, and moisture. The result of those barley, the own result of the barley seeds will definitely be produced because it's a field which has a complete collection of conditions such as barley seeds, water, fertilizer, heat, and moisture. So the point of this syllogism is in the predicate, where it says that the barley seeds will definitely arise. Now, why this? To relate this to what we're talking about here, if you engage in a particular virtuous action, then definitely the result of that will be happiness. And if you engage particularly in relation to negative actions, the result of that will definitely be suffering. So if somebody comes to you at the time of your death and says to you this, that if all the causes and conditions are complete for a particular form of rebirth, then and then of all the causes and conditions are gathered together and complete, then the place that you will go to will be definite. Actually, in terms of this syllogism, which comes from is called the fourth sign from Pramanavartika, you should be able to say, unless you're able to reply to that, because it's not actually a valid sign, right? But unless you're able to reply that there's no pervasion in the argument, that if all of the causes and conditions have come together, even though all of the conditions have come together, it's not necessary that the result has to be immediately produced. Until you can answer that there's no pervasion to that argument, then actually this is a lot of our Dharma practice is kind of missing the point. And so we have to have a very decisive, whether in terms of all of our practices, in terms of meditating on emptiness, renunciation, bodhichitta, we need to, but this particular point is very important to get this completely decisive understanding of the very natural relationship between causes. If you engage in causes, you will get that result. If you don't commit the causes, then you won't get the result. And this is very important for us to remember.
Simon, and I have an unfinished business now, because of this violet karsa.
Cookie.
The
a valid sign, or a complete valid sign, yeah.
Oh, okay. So the chezangati namju tadi tayanda mains kajansana kiji nibalia saben charogu temba yong sigri segi dumzingu yore. Inayang dinde kiji nibala saben charogu tengken se di tenla jarwonde dame tobe sherabgi dangzin le neche 아니 ngazo 손에 디용고 말했어요 알아 당 안졸라 다음에도 be 셔럽다 닝지다 가르고 토네 는 안졸 디캡트에 내가 메디 잠베 다 내서 줄려 주셔 저거 창대요래 아니 디니벌라 아니 지기 제벌 녀벌다 좋아 내서 줄려 주셔 저거 참 지디 신심만 주제 란디 누구 깽예레선 깽예레 가전스나 콜이야 개개인이 가게 믿어왔어 세상에 디 알아න්졸라 다양다 차로도 쓰고다 얘네야 디 얘기 섬주체 아니 당아도 투주 조샤 아니 뉴점에 트렌드를샤 아니 사면은 아니 저거죠.
So me and Rinpoche are having a we'll continue on with this debate after the teaching. so actually in the text what it says is that this syllogism where you say that in a field in a springtime field where all the conditions are there complete, it's suitable to produce its own result of barley seeds because it's a field complete with all the conditions. So there's a kind of technicality about this, which means that you can say that in the second moment, a crow or a flock of crows, let's say, will come along and eat up all of the seeds before the barley sprouts are able to grow in, before the seeds are able to grow into sprouts. So technically in the literature, it's not considered a valid sign because there's no pervasion. But Rinpoche is kind of scolding me and saying, well, actually, yeah, if that's true. But if you apply the example, which is with all this is an example, the syllogism is only an example. The real meaning is, what is the analogy of the flock of crows coming? It's the strong compassion or the understanding of selflessness, which directly counteracts selflessness, which directly counteracts self-grasping, and we don't have that. And therefore, for us, you can say that it is a valid sign. All the causes and conditions are complete, and there's no counteractive redeeming factor which can come in and save us. So therefore it is, for us, it's a valid sign. So me and Simon will continue with this debate later on, but I think Simon's already lost the debate, but and so our time is up, and so our time runs to an end.
Okay, so thank you very much. Then share, but we are going to talk about the main part from tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next Saturday. Next Saturday. Okay, and see you. And until then, please try to whatever I just said. If you feel it is beneficial for you, you try to think about it, contemplate about it, and try to follow the steps of the Geshe Chagaba, not Serkong Rinpoche. But if my thoughts and my the idea is helping you, then please use it. If not, then you can you throw it in the garbage. No problem. Okay, so see you next Saturday. And the dedication, do you have the specific dedication? Did someone shared it? Oh yes. Maybe some people don't know what specifically I choose the dedication. The first dedication is a very, very strong dedication. I call it, it's actually not praying to the outer refuge, it's the inner refuge, to yourself. So this is a very strong one. So let's do the dedication in English, I guess, and there's Italian, you can do Italian. So can someone, oh, there's Kama Judula, please.
Having thoroughly investigated in the code with all that I have heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind one of reflection on these topics of contemplation, made this discernment several doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountain, you're the source of all happiness and good, all powerful and residence in Yatso. Please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dhamma. By completing the qualities of grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue, with a dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times, in order to have good conduct. With my heart going up with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. Thank you very much for the teaching. We're looking forward to meeting you again next week, Saturday, same time, first teaching, second teaching. Also, I'd like to thank very much the translators, Simon and Fabrizio. Thank you very much for all their effort. And lastly, just to encourage you all to practice the generosity of the participants, and share your generosity and visit the event page in Dharma Friends website, also the Institute Lama Tsongkhapa website as well, and donate for this event. Thank you very much.
Okay, then also pray for the people who are suffering through this pandemic. They need our prayers very urgently. So please pray for them. And then also there are so many other sufferings going through in this world, so including your prayers. And also pray for me that I can complete the next 2 Saturdays. I have to cover everything. You pray for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Rinpoche.